Hi everyone, just a quick reminder that if you want to follow along the journey of making this dress in real time with me, both on Instagram and YouTube, then please consider supporting me on Patreon. You get to choose how much to pledge per month, and you will receive live updates both on my close friends' Instagram stories and access to all of the YouTube videos right now. Hope you enjoyed the video. Okay, so I just put the center front and side front panels over there on the ironing board. I'm actually really pleased with how well these seams turned out. It's not perfect, but when it's draped at the waist, I think it looks really good. These chevron things that are forming annoy me, but what can you do? So now I've decided that I'm going to move on to the train pieces and sew those together first. Reason being is because I want to keep the front and then the back portion of the skirt separate before I sew them together. Almost like if you were to think of a simple dress pattern and there's usually just two side seams, one on either side. And that's sort of what I'm trying to achieve with this. So I'm trying to keep the front separate to the back. So I'm going to move on to sewing the train portion of the skirt, same way I did that, and I will be back for any updates as usual. I'm just sewing above the triangle insert into the back of the dress, so just there is where the triangle train insert is, and then I'm just sewing up the back of the dress closed, and I'm just going to set my stitch length to about 5, and this way all of the stitching at the back of the dress above the train insert can be easily taken out. So these are quite long stitch lengths. And I'm just sewing up the back of the skirt. And I'm not sure exactly if I'm going to do the opening here or if I'm going to do the opening on the sides of the skirt. So for now, I'm just going to close it up with long stitches, like that. So now what you can see, actually, let me move this around. So now what you can see is, hold up, let me trim these. The triangle insert into the back of the dress there where the train is. So if I turn it to the right side, you should be able to see that triangle insert in there. And then that's been closed off here. And then above this triangle insert, I've just done really long stitches. So you can see the difference between the stitching there, where the triangle insert stops, and then all above it is just the really long stitches to keep that in place for now. I'm thinking maybe I'll put a zipper in the back of the dress, maybe I'll put hooks and eyes in the back of the dress, or maybe I will close off the dress with a drawstring tie. I am not sure. So for now, that's what I'm sticking with. So I've just laid the back pieces of the dress on the ground. You can see that's the triangle piece, and then all up here has those long basting stitches in. Now what I am going to do is join the side back pieces, so that one and that one, to the sides here. So I first need to trim off the excess cotton broadcloth off those pieces, and then I will attach them with these clips the same way I've done all of the other pieces. So I thought this was a really good example of how the pieces don't line up at the edges, just so you can see what I am doing when matching these pieces up at the side seams. Well, side back seams. So what I do is I start at the bottom and I lay the piece there roughly where I want it to be, and then I smooth the piece out all over until I reach the top. And then anything else that falls outside of the line, I just leave it as is, and I pin it like so. And then when I go to sew this under the machine, I will keep my seam allowance according to this panel piece rather than this one. So this one will have a much wider seam allowance than this piece. This piece will have the 2 centimeter seam allowance though. I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to give you insight as to my thought process when doing this. At the top here, I have no idea what I am doing. Somehow I am going to cut out the waist and hope it will fit. But for now, still focusing on sewing all of these panels together. There's still one more after that, and then after this whole back portion of the dress is done, I will somehow need to figure out how to attach it to the front. Okay. Wow, look at that difference in the seam allowance. I would say that that's basically 4 centimeters on this side, and then 2 centimeters obviously on this side. That clearly goes to show that my cutting is not great. Oh well. Again, just look at that difference in the seam allowance. 2 centimeters, 4 centimeters. Yeah, my cutting is really off. Like obviously for these panels down here, I started straight and then I curved outwards when I cut. And so it's not a straight line, it's actually curved, which is why this is happening. That's okay. What's next? I guess just seeing how it looks when held up against the dress form. Let's try that. So what I've done is draped the pieces onto the dress form. As you can see, the side seams have not been sewn. So there's one side seam and here's the other. I think the side seams match up quite well with the pieces down the bottom. There's just a little bit of misalignment, but I think overall the shape around the hem is fine. My next problem to solve is how I am going to cut out the waistline and make sure there is enough seam allowance when sewing these seams to, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, like have enough seam allowance, like sew these seams with enough seam allowance like all the other panels and have it fit the waist at the same time. So you can see that this is already cutting it really close. So what I'm thinking of that I'm going to have to do is the waistline is going to have to come down here a bit more, so there's actually more circumference around the waist, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. You can see that this part up here, that's just going to have to be chopped off because, yeah, that doesn't serve any purpose. I'm not sure if I'm going to put a zip in here or hooks and eyes and have it close in the back, but I'm just conscious that the back is very heavy. This whole skirt is freaking heavy. Let me just try and lay it out nice. It definitely needs like ruffly petticoats underneath to hold the shape out at the train. I don't really like the triangle insert in the back. It just looks odd. But nothing I can really do about that. Also, I'm not very keen on this shape out here. I'm thinking of just leveling it out so it's a bit more of a circle, semicircle shape rather than this wavy, wonky shape. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm a bit lost as to what to do. I know that I will have to iron out all of the seams, and then I'm thinking of hand felling them. So what I mean by that is in here, all of these seams, ironing them open flat, and then hand sewing them so that the raw edges are hidden under. And that will nicely finish off those seams so the skirt is not going to fray. Yeah, and I'm not sure about, I don't mind the front, but I was just hoping that there would be a bit more material up here where I could gather it, especially towards the back. I think the back is just really flat. But I guess that's not a bad thing. I don't know. And I'm thinking of, I don't know how I'm going to have closures on this skirt. I obviously need to think about this a bit harder. I will get back to you when I have figured something out, but I think for now what I am going to do is sew up these side seams. I'm going to sew them up to about here or so, and leave those open, or at least just baste those with long stitches so I could take them out later on if I needed to. But perhaps there could be a side opening rather than a back opening, because a back opening, it just needs to hold so much fabric, and that's a lot of fabric to hold up. It's heavy. So I'm thinking 2 side openings would be more appropriate for a skirt like this. Okay, let's get on to it.